Welcome back to Open Line. Spirited discussion. We're talking about Nathan Bedford Forrest, his place in history. We have with us Representative Mike Sparks, and we were going to have Representative Mike Stewart. He is not here. Mike Stewart is sponsoring a bill that would end recognition of Nathan Bedford Forrest Day in Tennessee. Representative Mike Sparks is on the other side of that issue. Let us now go to a bunch of calls here. Let's go to Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, how you doing there?
Great. What's on your mind?
Hey, your guest mentioned a little while ago how Nathan Bedford Forrest changed his views as he spoke in front of an organization that eventually became the NAACP. I would like to just say that Malcolm X also changed his views after he went over, visited Mecca, and started seeing that the people that was in his faith were of all different kind of races and things. But when you look at what the history books and what society here in America tells us about Malcolm X, it's usually all bad. So why is it that there's that double standard? Also, I just heard today that insurance premiums are starting to be based on your credit score rather than your driving history, you know, and I think that's something that's going to be more detrimental to blacks and minorities and things, and it reminds me of I correspond in Afghanistan to some of this stuff. They've got soldiers over there who let the terrorists hide amongst their ranks, and they kill American soldiers that are trying to train them to defend themselves. Now, if we allow the haters, the bigots, to hide amongst us, and they make these laws that hurt the people who can least afford it, you know, how much better are we than them? You know, I just think the flag is a symbol of hatred. I think Nathan Bedford Forrest should, if he was in the Klan, he should never have a day to celebrate. And I don't think I can change my view on that statement.
All right, thank you. Briefly comment.
Well, he made a good point about, I'm not aware of the credit score on that, but that would be an excellent bill for Representative Mike Stewart to carry. And I would encourage him to call 741-1100 tomorrow, 741-1100, and just ask for Representative Mike Stewart, ask if he'd carry that bill, and the caller makes a good point.
Could you carry it?
I could. He can call my office, 741-1100, and ask. But this is what I'm talking. The caller did make a good point. These are issues we should be talking about. You know, the title pond industry. You take Title Max, Advanced Financial, all up and down my road in my community. Big money business, 400%, 460%. Who's talking about those issues? Tell me a lobbyist up there. Ask him where the Democrats are on that issue. Ask him where Republicans are on that issue. You know, they don't donate to me. They ain't gonna buy me. But there's an issue.
Oh, there's no doubt. There are many issues. There's no doubt. But
the caller makes a good point. But this is what's so sad is rather than having good constructive dialogue about things and moving towards finding solutions, we're sitting here spinning our wheels on topics that don't even. What happened in South Carolina is very unfortunate. Why don't they talk about mental health? You know, here's somebody that my understanding that had a mental health problem.
This does open up a discussion about race. It does open up a discussion about our history, and that can be productive and positive. Certainly,
but wouldn't
people
it be more positive to talk about mental health and solutions, though?
And we will. But tonight, this is the topic.
Exactly.
And we will. It's something that is passionate for people. Some people believe strongly it should stay the way it is. Other people believe strongly that it's a symbol of hate, whether we're talking about the flag or whether we're talking about a leader who is in the Klan.
But how far are we going to take it, Ben? Is Sam Davis Monument out here, is the on plantation home, is that a symbol of hate? There was slaves there at one time. There was slaves behind my home where I lived that was once a plantation. Are we going to just demolish those plantations? Are we going to pull up? I mean, think of how crazy this is. They're literally talking about digging up a grave in Memphis.
That's in Memphis, yes.
That's crazy.
All right, let's go to Wayne. Have I already gone to you? Wayne, are you there? Okay, I think I already went to you. Let's go to Walker. Hello, Walker.
Hello. I would just like to say this is a very thought-provoking program. Originally, I just wanted to say, in view of why we recognize Nathan Bedford Forrest, I think we need to have some dialogue on his military tactics. The man was a genius at that.
He was.
And also, you know, we have mentioned that his involvement with the Klan. Reconstruction politics, and when you start looking at that, there are many historical figures who you might want to question what their motives were. And I also think that in view of looking at the Civil War in terms of slavery, we also need to look at it in view of the states' rights issue, which led to the firing on Fort Sumner. And I agree with Representative Sparks. We need to take a real objective look at that, and we need to go back to teaching civics in the classroom.
Yes,
and we need to present our history as it is and let the people judge. You know, when we look at things in terms of political correctness, that's not necessarily good when we start rewriting our history and judging people by the standards that we have today. These were all men that represented their times, and I'm going to just shut up and let everybody else have a say in this. This has been very thought-provoking and an excellent show. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the call. And I think it is important to say, all right, they're talking about moving the bus to a museum. They're not talking about doing away with his place in history. It is a question of, should the state bestow honor in the form of a recognition of Nathan Bedford Forrest Day and a prominent place within the state capitol to somebody with, you know, that was a leader in the Klan and the other things, a military leader and those things. It's not do away with all mention of him in history. It's what role should the state have in honoring that person?
Well, let's go back to Memphis City Council talking about digging up a grave. How much nonsense is that? That's foolishness. There's no wisdom and discernment in that type of a decision. Now, if they want to move the bust to the State Museum, I'm up to discussion on that. I don't have a problem with discussing that. And I don't think the other members of my caucus or the Democrats would have a problem with it. I had just had a Democrat today I happened to see. I won't mention his name. Great fella, and he was kind of picking at his own party about Andrew Jackson. And he even said himself, it's nonsense. We have other things we can be doing, and that was a Democrat. I won't say his name. I'll give you a hint. He's got a military background, and he's a conservative guy. And I was kidding about joining the Republican Party, but it's nonsense when we go down this slippery slope. We have other things we could be talking about.
All right, let's go to Vivian. Hello, Vivian.
Oh, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to make a few comments, please. If we look back in history, as some of the callers have said, there is not the perfect life of many of the really strong people in our background. Now, look at President Washington, George Washington, the general. He had slaves at his home, and he was the president of our country, the father of our country. Now, when Lincoln was president, he even got very remorse and sad because he was so afraid that he had made the wrong decision, which he did not. But then, many people do not know this, that Governor Austin Peay, when he was the governor, he was the one that gave the approval to put up the monument to Nathan Bedford Forrest out in a small community of Marshall County, that we felt as if in Tennessee that he had done some good as well as the dark shadow in his life. And I just don't feel as if this needs to be removed from the Capitol, as Governor Austin Peay is the one that gave the authority to put that monument up to him. So anyway, I hope and pray we don't rewrite history. My husband and I both are very strong historians, and if we start rewriting, where do we stop? And thank you so much. Goodbye.
All right, thank you for the call.
Good point.
And my point would be, because we don't have Representative Stewart here.
That's wisdom in that call.
But it's not rewriting history. We're not talking about rewriting history, are we? We're talking about,
I think we're censoring
is the state honoring someone, given what we know about his past. It's not do away with it and never talk about it, but it is. So I don't know.
But if you're doing away with it, you're not talking about it.
Well, you move it to a museum.
Well, they're trying to hide it is what they're doing. They're censoring it. Why not talk about Samson Keeble, the first African-American state representative that was a Republican and a Confederate, but it's not talked about? Why isn't that in the history books? I think that's something that people should be talking about. He ran 3 good bills, didn't get them passed, and if you really want to look at history, it was the Democrats that blocked his bills.
Now,
But
does
see,
he have
that's
a
not in the
bust in
history.
the Capitol?
Yeah, there's a bust just about 25 feet from it. If you come off the, well, it's towards the house side on the left, and he was from Rutherford County, and then moved to Nashville later.
All right, we have a bunch of calls. Is Lee? Is this you, Lee?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm a Civil War historian buff. Been doing it for a great number of years. And I want to give you all and to the public an example about political correctness and how history is changing. Have you ever, when you're in school, you're in the classroom, and the teacher whispers a secret into the first student, and it goes up and down throughout the whole class, say 25 people, 25 kids, and then the secret comes back to the teacher, and it's totally changed?
Yes.
That's what's going on with our history.
Okay, in what way?
Pardon me?
In what way?
Well, because people are changing. The original facts is not the same. These historians today, many of them, if you read the newer books, they take footnotes based upon the other book, and then that person is not 100% correct, and then that footnote goes to another one. But you need to go back to the original history, of Nathan Bedford Forrest, of the people of the South, the trials, the turmoils, the happiness, the passion, everything that goes across the board. That is the true moments in that glimpse of time. We should not abolish this era of history. So many things have been learned through history. The slavery issue and the flag. I'm sorry that we're hurting people's feelings. There's some things that hurts my feelings.
Yes, sir.
It's part of freedom of expression, freedom of speech. But history is history, and you don't put it into a closet and say, and then slap your hand and say, "Well, there's that." It needs to be expressed out.
Okay, all right, thank you. Again, state government represents everyone.
Yes.
And so when the state puts it in a position of prominence, it's being done with the blessing of theoretically everyone. I don't think anyone's
everyone
saying,
has a vote on that. Everyone has a representative.
I don't think anyone's saying put it away and never talk. Again, a museum is a public place where it can be discussed. Nobody's talking about censoring our history, but should the state...
But the caller made a good point about people getting their feelings hurt. I mean, I can get my feelings hurt by the time I made it up here. I mean, my wife would rather me be at home having supper than coming up here tonight. She had supper on the table. Was kind of disappointed that I left supper there. But, we got to get over getting our feelings hurt. I got my feelings hurt a whole lot with issues, especially serving the General Assembly sometimes. But the political correctness is just going too far. And I think most people, these folks I talk to, are upset with the problems that we're seeing. And why not look at some constructive dialogue about problem solving? I mean, if people seeing the problems I see, and I know the path that we're on, it's unsustainable. Ben, it's unsustainable, the problems that I'm seeing. And there's no lobbyists. Let me make this clear to the folks. Okay. There's no lobbyist up there, Ben, at State Capitol for people. Name who it is. Tell me who the lobbyists are. That's lobbying for affordable education. That's lobbying against $1.3 trillion worth of tuition debt. That's lobbying against companies that's charging 400 to 460% interest in the payday loan industry and the title pawn industry. Name one. Ask Phil Williams to name me somebody. I bet he can't even get a name. Why aren't we talking about those issues? But we're going to talk about something like this that at the end of the day doesn't mean anything. We got the highest incarceration rate on the face of the earth. Who's lobbying against it? We got a drug epidemic. Who's lobbying? Nobody. Get Phil Williams to investigate that.
These are all right. We're going to take a break. There's the number if you want to call in. I think all the lines are full, though, so we'll take a break. Be back right after this.